Hey everyone, I'm Beth with Liberty Landscape Supply. Welcome to our first virtual garden social. I have Connor here with Solar Gardening, one of our local contractors at Fernandina Beach, and we're going to be talking about raised beds. So Connor, what are the pros of using raised beds in the yard?
Um, well, in our area, generally the soil is pretty poor, pretty sandy, doesn't have a lot of nutrients and organic matter, the stuff that plants need. So it's pretty easy to create a raised bed and fill it with really good soil and give new plants exactly what they need. It kind of is an easier experience to grow vegetables and herbs that way. Um, so that's really one of the major advantages. Other than that, sometimes it's nice to have a bed that's elevated. You don't have to bend all the way down to work in it. It's a little easier on your back. Also, it just is sometimes more convenient. The soil is really loose in there. You're not fighting with roots from the trees around you. And it's really easy to put new plants in, take plants out as the seasons are changing. You want to rotate your vegetables. So it makes it really convenient to work in. And I think it's, for a lot of people, it's a good solution if they don't have a lot of space or don't have very good soil. Starting with a raised bed is a good way to start growing food.
What kind of soil do you have in here right now?
So I definitely recommend not to skimp on your soil. Soil is key. So we filled this bed with a product from Liberty Landscape Supply. They sell bulk potting mix. That's what they call it. It's really a bulk compost. And some of you know compost is very nutrient rich and plants love that. So we filled this whole bed with compost, and the plants that we've put in so far are loving it.
What kind of plants do you have in here right now? What's good for this season?
So right now we're in mid-April, and a lot of this is stuff that we planted in January and February, and is now really thriving and taking off, but is soon to be changed. Like we've got some strawberries in here, some cilantro, rosemary. We've got a lot of arugula, some nasturtiums, and then in the back there we've got some peppers and tomato, which were more recently planted. That's going to be more of our late spring harvest. But you're not in your raised bed. You can really plant what you want to plant, but you do want to follow a planting calendar, or ask someone who knows what to plant at what time, so that you make sure that you're planting things that are going to cooperate with the conditions you're in.
So, what kind of wood have you used? And then I see some raised beds that have the actual legs that are off the ground. Can you just touch a little on that?
Yeah, so as far as the wood you use, it's a really actually important question, because there's lots of different kinds of lumber that could be used. We used untreated cedar, which is widely considered one of the toughest and most naturally rot resistant woods. That being said, it's also one of the most expensive, which might be something you want to consider. For us, it's worth it, because one of the alternatives is treated wood, which I don't recommend using. Treated wood or pressure treated wood is treated with chemicals that, there's the potential that those can leach into your soil and then into your food and then into you. So I'm not comfortable with, having chemicals in the wood that I use for my raised beds. So I use untreated cedar. Cypress is also an option that might be a little cheaper, might not last as long. But definitely feel free to do some research into the different types of woods available to you. But cedar is definitely a safe route, and one that I recommend.
And then the raised and the legs.
Oh yeah, so I've made a bed before that was, unlike this one, which meets the ground, I've made one before that's on legs. And what's really nice about that one is that you can stand in front of it and it's almost counter height, like the top of it, and you can just plant right into it without bending over at all. It's also situated on a paver patio, so you couldn't, well, I guess you could, but it really made sense in that scenario to raise the bed up high. I think this kind of design I prefer personally, because if I plant something in here, like I don't know, maybe these tomatoes back here, their roots potentially may want to go deeper than the 20 inches high that this box is. So they have the availability to go down into the soil beneath the bed. When you have a raised bed that isn't touching the ground, you're more limited with the soil. The roots don't have as much nutrients to access. You could have issues with drainage, so you have to plan for that. So I'd say that, having a lifted bed that doesn't meet the ground is a little bit more advanced when you're building it. But, it has its benefits and it has its place, definitely. But I think this is my favorite kind.
Have you had any issues with pests or insects affecting the plants at all?
So far, our plants have done really well. We haven't had many pest issues. It's early in the season, so we'll see if, as the weather gets warmer, that changes. I've seen some raised beds designed with like chicken wire over them to protect them from birds and other kind of, maybe squirrels or rats that might get at the fruit or food, but we haven't found that necessary. I mean, one of the things I believe is if your plants are in really healthy soil, then they're going to be healthy and going to be naturally a little bit pest resistant. So, we've got these plants planted right in some rich composts, and I think that's part of why they do really well, and we don't see many issues.
Have you noticed any plants are kind of more beginner friendly that are lower maintenance than others?
That's a really good question. As far as herbs go, I think rosemary and oregano are two of the easiest herbs to grow. I think everybody should have them in their yard because they're really fun to be able to go out and just pick some and put them in a soup or whatever dish you're cooking with. Arugula is one of my favorite greens to grow. That's a great one to do. And then beyond that, I'd say to think about what you like to eat, what you're going to eat the most, and just give it a shot. Like, it might not work out, but it's always a learning process with growing. So don't beat yourself up if something doesn't work the first time you try to grow it. You might have planted it at the wrong time, or the conditions might have been a little off. So I definitely encourage people to explore their options.
All right, well, I think that's all the questions I had for you today. Hopefully you guys are inspired to start your own gardens at home. Amongst all the times that we're going through right now, it's definitely fun to have something to work on with your kids, your family, and then reap the benefits of your garden, enjoy some of the stuff that you've planted. So thanks for joining us. Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, Beth.
Have a great night or day.
Sweet.